Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
There's so much standard action they couldn't even fit it into one Grand Prix last weekend.
No, and both Grand Prix were quite different top of tables, like a little bit overlap, but some huge diversity of strategies.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know. Where do you want to start? There's so many stories, so many deck lists, some unanticipated stuff.
One of my favorite decks of the weekend was definitely Papa Yellow Hat himself, Gabriel Nassif's Mono Blue aggro deck. And we've seen an occasional blip from Mono Blue in the so far, but this one definitely stands out in these two top eights. And ultra low to the ground Hat's version is.
Oh yeah, he's
like the fact that once you're playing 4 dive down and 2 spell pierce, and to say nothing of 4 wizard's retort, and then having all these 1-drops, even though you're blue. Curious your thoughts on his list.
Oh, this is a super solid list. I think that dive down is awesome in this strategy. Just from curve perspective, if you drop like a first turn Mist Cloaked Herald, which is a 1/1 Merfolk Warrior for you that can't be blocked ever, and then turn 2 you play an island, you curiously obsess that Mist Cloaked Herald. We have another island open. That guy is, first of all, he's cracking in for 2, so he's Jackal-tacular already. And then if you've got like a dive down or mayhap a spell pierce in your hand, you can protect it for a turn or 2, and you're just going to get, some damage in and a good advantage.
Oh, yeah. I think that you can really snowball. When you're doing 2 a turn that way while drawing extra cards, you don't have to hit them very much before you've got like a lot of advantage just rolling, particularly when you're dealing with a deck like this that can be so good at pressing the advantage. So I think this is very exciting in a world in which you anticipate basically, I don't think you want to be playing against red, but if you're expecting a lot of Golgari, if you're expecting a lot of Celestia, if you're expecting a lot of basically just not red decks.
Yeah, Yellow Hat lost to.
Unfortunately, though, in the finals.
Yeah.
Actual mono red, right?
Oh yeah. It was the least interesting mono red deck. Not to take anything away from its pilot, of course, but this is
a different way to put it is pure.
Yeah, this is just
there was nothing. This was the epitome of soulless mono red.
This is like the week 1 deck, right?
No, not with 4 Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah,
I think 4 Experimental Frenzy is the way that it probably should have been. But I think that this is the tuned version. I think that 4 Experimental Frenzy, 4 Lightning Strike, 4 Shock, 4 Wizards, just 4 of everything all the way down. It's pretty close to the week 1 deck. But, I don't think week 1 people were just sideboarding 4 treasure maps.
Well, I think that the real question is if you're going to play Fanatical Firebrand in your main deck instead of treasure map, right? So, because a lot of people just have treasure map in the main deck instead of playing in the sideboard. But to your point, this sideboard is, I'm not sure if Thing of Beauty is the right term to use. It's literally 4 treasure maps and then 11 different kinds of burn/creature removal cards. I kind of love it.
Well, to be fair, Fight with Fire and Banefire are kind of face removal cards, particularly against Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah.
But yeah, now when you're playing the mono blue deck, it's tough when your opponent's threats are so cheap and they have so many forms of interaction that they can do without falling behind. And when you've got cards like Fanatical Firebrand and Goblin Chain Whirler, which could be so devastating to the blue aggro cards. So I think Nassif's deck is super sweet.
definitely a game. I'm not sure that I would want to run it given the success of Red this weekend, but I don't know if people like React. The thing is, I still am. I mean, maybe it's super good, but like I'm not sold on Jeskai versus Mono Blue. I kind of still like the Jeskai side.
Well, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Before we get to other decks, and I know that there are a lot of other sweet decks to talk about this week. I actually just want to like pause and iterate on Nassif's deck for a second. So Nassif's deck was a mono blue Wizards deck, right? So this deck is playing with cards like Curious Obsession. Like Curious Obsession is like the center of this deck. Like you want to get it onto your guys. It's worth a card, right? Is it possible to move a little bit away from Wizards, maybe not be mono blue, in which case you would lose access to Tempest Djinn, but then switch to black, get Thief of Hope in at the 3, which is basically, it's got evasion and it's got an ability similar to Curious Obsession built in. And then if move a little bit more towards Pirates instead of Wizards, switch Wizards Retort for Lookout's Dispersal, and do you get a lot better against mono red? For example, Busan sideboard had Fiery Cannonade, right? That card doesn't even damage Pirates. Right, so and I think you get to keep a lot of the flavor of Nassif's deck, even though you're adding a separate color. Is this a crazy way of thinking?
I mean, it's not like he's boarding in Cannonade against Nassif's deck. Nassif has Siren Storm Tamer and Warkite Marauder, which are both pirates, and Tempest Djinn, which doesn't die to the Cannonade. So, like, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily crazy, but you're just talking about a totally different deck. You're talking about some sort of a blue-black deck, because I think that this mono-blue deck, its part is turn 4. And I think that the Tempest Djinn is a for real turn 3.
I love Tempest Djinn. You know I love Tempest Djinn.
Definitely. I just don't know what the black cards are that you're getting. I don't think Thief of Hope is as good as Tempest Djinn. I think Thief of Hope's a better card in if you just randomly put it in a deck. But if you're playing mono blue versus blue black, once you're going to make the mana work, I think Tempest Djinn is way better.
All right, so let's talk about Wizards Retort for a second. Is it possible that Wizards Retort isn't actually the best 4 of in this deck versus Lookout's Dispersal? There's actually more Pirates than Wizards in this deck.
Yeah, I'm not speaking to that. I think the Wizards Retort versus Lookout's Dispersal, I could go either way on that. I think that if you had Pirates you wanted to play, and I do think, though, that Cancel is better than Lookout's Dispersal the hard way. But I think that actual Counterspell, it's definitely better, but it's a question of how much you're powering it up. I could see a case to be made for going the other way with it. But I don't mind too much. And this deck only has 6 Pirates right now, and it has 8 Wizards. So it's not actually lopsided yet, right?
No, it has 4 Siren. Well, Siren Storm Tamer is both a pirate and a wizard, right?
Right.
And then it has Warkite Marauder, which is a pirate.
So that's 6 Pirates, and it has 8 Wizards. The Trickster.
Right. All right. I mean, there is another Marauder in the sideboard, but to that point, there are 4
and there's 4 Exclusion. Right.
How great is Exclusion Mage in the sideboard? I kind of love that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Mana War.
Yeah.
2018.
But with, on Tribe, another part that's kind of interesting is the use of Opt. Playing a Turbo Xerox super low mana base, but having a little bit more staying power. I mean, even this deck, the thing I wonder about, even this deck, with just 1 4-cost card at all and just 4 3s. I wonder, though, I don't think I could get away from Chart a Course in a deck like this.
He's got 2.
I know, but I would play 4. I would play 5.
What about Sleep?
Sleep is sweet. I don't know. It's a Nassif type of card, though. It's the thing that gets me, though, that gets me thinking that there's got to be something here. There's one in the sideboard also. He's serious.
Yeah. I mean, Sleep, if you get it in the right spot, it's It does it, right? Like it kind of takes 2 turns away from them. And it's kind of card advantage in the sense that they don't get the utility of the cards, especially if you're bashing them with Tempest Gin twice. Like if you're like Tempest Gin, sleep your guys, get in 2 times, like they might not have any game anymore. They might be dead.
So like, what do you like, or what do you think of the differences between Selective Snare and Sleep when you're playing against an Angel deck, right? And they've got all these different flyers that can outclash your flyers, but you can Selective Snare them or you can put them to sleep. Selective Snare obviously can be used for less mana under certain circumstances, can cost your opponent a ton of mana. However, with Selective Snare, they might be back on the very next turn, whereas with Sleep, that's it.
I think that Selective Snare gets them in some spots, at least like a little bit, that Sleep can't. For example, if they have the 4-mana Angel, what's it called, that gives them Hexproof? Like, you can't sleep somebody who has that Angel in play, but you could just bounce that guy, right? And then maybe get something in. But if they don't have that Angel in play, you could get...
Sleep is so much better.
No, in that case that they have Hexproof...
Yeah, but you're still just doing a bad on summon.
Except in the case where they don't have that guy in play and they have like a 3-mana Angel and a 5 casting cost Angel, you can get them for both of those guys, right? Like, it has some options. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, Selective Snare is not super high up on my list of cards that I was excited to try to play. That said, I'm just trying to figure out a spot where it might make more sense to me.
The other thing you can do is bounce your wizards. Yeah?
Yeah, bounce Exclusion Mage, bounce again. I like it.
And the Trickster, all that. Just bounce all your wizards.
All the guys that have some kind of enter the battlefield action.
Speaking on Angels, though, I was really impressed with Brad's update on Angels. But sorry, were you going a different direction?
I was just going to ask, like, maybe just playing more Diamond Mares is a thing that you might want to do. Like if red is the problem deck, then Diamond Mare might be helpful. It blocks a lot of their guys pretty well. It doesn't get Chain Whirlered straight away. Obviously, it doesn't really block Chain Whirler very well, but it can at least not get Chain Whirlered to death. And it just, it's really good at blocking 2/1 creatures, 1/1 creatures. It's fine at blocking 1/2 creatures, Yeah,
I like Diamond Mare in here. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I would play more Diamond Mares. I think you got to do something, and I don't think it's one of those cases where you should give up and just not even waste the sideboard spots. I think the sideboard slots actually matter. That's a good use for him.
You want to jump to
Brad's
Brad's
on the right track. I think you got the right idea. Sure. Yeah, like Angels, Boros Angels. The whole Resplendent Angel into Aurelia into Lyra Dawnbringer. But instead of being so pure, obviously there's Rekindling Phoenix in Brad's list here. But the thing I thought was really interesting was the use of 4 Tocatli Honor Guard.
Oh, yeah. That guy is their main deck just to mess with Golgari and, the Explore teams. Right. Any kind of district guide. Can you imagine you're playing one of these green-black decks, for example, or green-red decks, and you're relying on a hand that's like, all right, I only have 1 or 2 lands, but I have like 1 mana play. Like, it could be like some kind of an Adventurous Impulse or a Llanowar Elf, but then I just need to hit with my Merfolk Branchwalker or my Jadelight Ranger or both in order to keep my game going. You're forced to keep these hands all the time that only have 1 or 2 land, right? Because you have these 187 guys that are supposed to get you your land. Tocatli Honor Guard just demolishes you in that spot, right? You just can't draw land. You're done.
Oh, yeah. And Brad's list is particularly good at taking advantage of, like what are they going to do? Are they going to Assassin's Trophy your 2-drop? Because then he just starts, slamming Rekindling Phoenixes or Lyra Dawnbringer or Aurelia and really just going to town.
I was pretty surprised in this deck. Obviously, he has to make room for Tocatli Honor Guard, but other folks, I guess, found the place. He's got a Danto Vanguard. He's got Tocatli Honor Guard. He's got History of Benalia. Odd man out is Knight of Grace. Like, these decks usually have Knight of Grace to go with History of Benalia at the 2.
Knight of Grace? Without any black cards?
Yeah, just to play it. A lot
Maybe.
of people have it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind cutting that at all, but I don't know, man. I think the Tocatli Honor Guard seems super smart for this weekend, and I also like the Direfleet Daredevils in his sideboard. Obviously, not a great combo with the Honor Guard, but the Direfleet Daredevil for grinding. You know, like if you're playing against a red deck, the fact that you can Direfleet Daredevil. A 2/1 first striker is not a trivial body against them, and you can steal one of their burn spells to Necrotal something down.
Oh, yeah, probably for 3, right? You can, like, Direfleet Daredevil and then Shock or something.
Yeah, or for 4 and Lightning Strike. But either way, that's a very respectable turn 2 or turn 3 or turn 4 play.
2 cards in Brad's deck that I think are just jumping across archetypes and just the most important cards to talk about in this standard. Lava Coil. He played 4 copies of Lava Coil in his main
Love
deck.
it.
And 4 copies of Rekindling Phoenix. Like, those guys are, it's funny because they're like arch enemies, right? Like, Lava Coil for 2 takes away all of Rekindling Phoenix's bonus that you would get for playing it. But the thing is, the decks where you want Lava Coil often have Rekindling Phoenix, but they have so many other threats that you really need the Lava Coil. And, like, the coils are... I think you just can't have enough coils. Like, look at Eduardo's deck, right? Main deck, he's got Arclight Phoenix, perfect card to Lava Coil. Crackling Drake, if you have a spot to Lava Coil it, you coil it, right? It has 4 toughness, it's pretty hard to kill, and it might just kill you.
Oh yeah, I think that hitting Crackling Drake is super efficient actually, because it's not like your removal spell was going to do a whole bunch anyway. And so the fact that instead of having lightning strikes like people in the past, you can actually kill the Drake, sure, you're down a card. But like if you would have just been holding lightning strike, it's not like that would have been like the greatest card to just have. So I don't know. I think that Lava Coil seems excellent, and in particular, I just think that Arclight Phoenix is, both Rekindling Phoenix and Arclight Phoenix give a lot of meaning to that exile.
Oh, absolutely. I think Lava Coil is just it's just going to be one of the pillars that hold the ceiling up in this format. It's so interesting to me how important 4 toughness is and how important 5 toughness is. Like Aurelia, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a different world right now than we've seen. Lyra Dawnbringer, Aurelia. It's just not, so stuff like Fight with Fire is meaningful. Like to actually do the 5 on the front side.
Oh yeah. Plus the fact that Fight with Fire is the end game is just such a realistic possibility.
Oh yeah, did it a ton myself.
Now, how do you like Brad's Boros list versus Nazar Saren's Boros Mentor deck? Also taking advantage of Tocatli Honor Guard, although just the 1 copy. Instead, an eclectic mix of support for the Bugler that, 1 Siege Gang Commander, 1 Direfleet Daredevil, 1 Bounty Agent, 1 Tocatli, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
But then 3 Skater, 2 Rekindling Phoenix, 3 Legion War Boss. This is just a lot of different stuff. It's not intuitive to me, this blend.
Yeah, I like Brad's deck a lot more. One of the things about Nizar's deck that I thought was fantastic was playing Tajic Legion's Edge. And I'm like, wow, he has Tajic Legion's Edge and 23 other guys. This has got to be the best Deafening Clarion deck ever. He's got like 1 Clarion total in his sideboard. Like, right? Like, wouldn't you... Like, that is a push right there. To Tajic and Deafening Clarion.
Huh. I wonder if it's just that the only matches where you want to board in Deafening Clarion are matches where you want to board out Tajik.
I don't know. I thought that they were just naturally peanut butter and chocolate. Like it just
in what draft?
Well, I mean, like the plan A of this deck is to just jam cardboard onto the table, swing and mentor, right? Like he's got Legion War Boss.
I know. I'm just saying that, like, okay, who do you want Tajik against? Do you want him against people who play their own Deafening Clarions? Because it's not like you want Deafening Clarion against those people.
Well, he's good against those people, but I think
he's good, but Deafening Clarion isn't.
No, I think you want Deafening Clarion against like, you know, green black or green red or green white, like all these.
Is that where you want Tajik?
I think Tajik is perfectly serviceable against those decks, especially in a mentor context. Right? He has like, you know, first strike. He doesn't just die in combat to them.
Just start pumping up the Tocatli Honor Guard. Get some counters on there for getting in there. Yeah, I don't know, man. It could be. I'd have to see it.
So I vastly like Brad's deck better than Nazar's, in part because of one of his sideboard cards, the Immortal Sun. Immortal Sun seems awesome in this deck.
It really does.
Like
I think you're totally right.
It's just Guildgate-tacular, you know? He's playing with a 6, but it's just he has a meaningful number of guys. I think like the draw engine is really good. And the other thing about it is there are a fair number of decks where the only way that they can realistically remove the Immortal Sun is like Vivian Reed. Right? So they're just stuck.
Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, Vivian Reed can't remove the Immortal Sun because it can't be activated. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. And so do you like Brad's Angel deck better than the Celestine Angel deck? The top 8 or top 4, actually?
Kellen Pastoris deck?
Yeah.
Kellen Pastoris
also for Tocatli.
Kellen Pastoris deck was one of the more unsung successful decks of the weekend. It was also playing in the finals of the PTQ when I left GPNJ, the same 75. So I think there's something here. Here's a deck that has got the Knight of Grace we talked about, despite not being black, and you know it's working with History of Benalia, etc. So the thing that's super secret about this deck is it's a green creature deck, doesn't play explore guys, right? That's its shtick. The weird thing to me is like
it's a lot more of a white creature deck, right?
Well, yeah, I mean it's both. I don't know. I guess he has 9 plains, 5 forests. But like, you know, pick a 2-drop. He's got 3 Knight of Grace, 3 Adanto Vanguard, 3 Thorn Lieutenant at the 2.
And 4 Tocatli.
Yeah, and 4 Tocatli. But he's not, I don't know. I would think that like one of those is generally better than the others. I mean, I think I would probably start with 4 Adanto Vanguard. My intuition is Thorn Lieutenant is better than Knight of Grace, but I don't know. 3/3/3 seems odd to me.
Definitely. At the very least, I think the 4th Adanto Vanguard is a must.
The big thing that this deck gets versus Brad's deck got to be access to Carnage Tyrant, right? Like, just an awesome threat against control.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting by playing so many 2s, and maybe this is some of the advantage that you get from having the diversity, but Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants, being able to get back your choice of 2 does provide some amount of incentive to kind of diversify your portfolio. But the Carnage Tyrant aspect is, I think, just actually quietly quite good against the control decks. Like, it's like a very, very important part of the plan. Like, even when they have answers, it's not like their answers are always clean. Like, how many answers are they going to play? So
it's tough, you know, Carnage Tyrant for control. Like, you can beat it, right, with Cleansing Nova. You can beat it with Settle the Wreckage, but he's pressuring you with all these other creatures at the same time, right? So they're gonna draw some of that fire.
out of the two Celestia decks that we're looking at here, I don't know. Is it weird that I like the token deck a little bit better?
I used to be into the tokens in Standard a lot. The thing that I don't like about this deck, and it's weird because there was no Golgari deck at all in the top 8 of the New Jersey Grand Prix. But like the Golgari deck is more or less the most common deck in Standard, and the Golgari deck just knows how to beat this deck. That's the thing that I don't like about it. Versus the Golgari deck is pretty bad against the Green White Angels deck and very bad against the Red White Angels deck.
Man, why does everybody play the Golgari deck then?
Well, they didn't know about these other just 4X Tocatli Honor Guard aggro decks, obviously, or they wouldn't have played the middlest deck in the format, I think. Like that, Golgari is just, you're just signing up for like, I'm in the middle. Win some, lose some. Not embarrassing against anybody. Oh, wait. People are packing 4 Tocatli Honor Guard and have a good clock. Reevaluate.
What do you think of Eli's take on Jeskai going, with the slightly exotic 4 Azur's Gateway?
I mean, how do you think I feel about this deck? I am the Azur's Gateway love machine.
I was going to say, you've always been on the Azur's Gateway tip.
I flipped Azur's Gateway against Jeskai multiple times last weekend myself. And when I was watching the top 8 match and he had this 2-mana artifact in play, I was just like, what's that? I'm like, is that? And I got to see him flip it for both Vanefire and Expansion Explosion over the course of his matches on the day. I think this is I think this will be the defining version of Jeskai. Probably not to the details, but like Azur's Gate will be a defining thing. There's some stuff that doesn't make any sense to me about this deck, but like I think that he got a lot of stuff right, even if the Jeskai players of the universe don't keep everything, they are going to keep that aspect, in my opinion.
You said there's a lot of things in this deck that don't make sense to you.
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Teferi Star of Extinction makes no sense to me.
I disagree. I disagree.
Immortal Sun makes no sense to me.
No. Wait, let me slow down a second.
Yeah?
You said Teferi and Star of Extinction makes no sense to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what Star of Extinction is doing. Star of Extinction is very comparable to a Soul Nova, but it costs 7. So it's good types for Azure Gateway. That's actually like a meaningful part of the Star of Extinction's range, is how good it is to discard to your Azur's Gateway.
I buy it.
And when you've got Teferi going, you've got all kinds of things in your favor. It's not like that's the spot where you need the most help. As for the Immortal Sun in the sideboard, remember, this is in a sideboard that has 2 Rekindling Phoenix, Lyra Dawnbringer, Nezahal Primal Tide, Niv Mizzet Perun, and is already lots of burn spells deep. Like a Banefire plus 4 Expansion Explosion with another Banefire in the sideboard. Not Soul Nova, Cleansing Nova, of course. But the point being that the Immortal Sun is actually kind of sick here.
He's not siding out as Teferi,
for
is he?
Switching. Well, okay, here's the scenarios. Do you literally have a Teferi going?
Sure.
If yes, your life is good.
Okay.
If no, play Immortal Sun.
Now
and then once
the Immortal...
Right. Now, if you have the Immortal Sun in play, can you afford to occasionally draw a Teferi that doesn't do anything?
Well, yeah, because the Immortal Sun is doing Teferi's job anyway.
Totally.
It actually does both of Teferi's jobs, right? It gives you a mana discount. It's drawing extra cards per turn.
Yep.
One of the reasons that I thought that Rekindling Phoenix was such an impressive card was watching Cassis play it in the top 4 against the Selesnya Angels deck. He just put out the Rekindling Phoenix and then just blocked Lyra Dawnbringer with it every turn. And which seems like odd because the opponent just keeps gaining 5 life and the Rekindling Phoenix just keeps dying. But the opponent is forced to play multiple creatures then to just get through the stupid Rekindling Phoenix, at which point he would just cast Settle the Wreckage or or one of his other sweepers.
Cleansing Nova or Star of Extinction.
Yep, absolutely. And then he's just, all right, I still have a Rekindling Phoenix because it comes back. That's what it does. And I thought that was so cool.
What do you think of the Divination Chemister's Insight split?
I think that's probably another Azor's Gateway thing, right? Like just splitting up the casting costs.
Is it though? Because like, how many 4s does he even have?
Well, he's got Settle the Wreckage also.
Yeah.
So
not a lot.
Yeah, but it's a 4. That's what I'm saying. It's help.
No, but Divination is the 3. Of course you play Chemister's Insight. My question is, once you have Settle the Wreckage and you're holding up Settle the Wreckage mana, you're just so good at or Chemister's Insight action.
Well, here's the thing.
Like, it's not like he's super short on 3s. I like Divination too. It's just that it's surprising to me. Like, I think Divination would be more impressive in a deck that was less Settle the Wreckage focused and less Expansion Explosion focused and less wide open at the 4.
See, I actually disagree a little bit about the Divination here. Like, look at his permission. He just has like 3 Ionize and 1 Disdainful Stroke. He isn't really that up about like having mana open. Like, his Syncopate is going to cast on turn 2 if he can. Right? He just doesn't care. This is like a...
Well, let's Settle the Wreckage.
Okay. He doesn't have a lot of that kind of like play on your opponent's turn necessarily reactive instance. Like, well, he has there's just not like as many as you often see in Jeskai control decks.
He's got 6 counter spells, 3 Seal Aways, 2 Settle the Wreckage, 4 Expansion Explosion. I don't know, man. That seems like a fair bit.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. He has some, obviously, but like I think that other ones have more, right? And we're just talking about levering on 2 divinations here.
Yep.
Like, if you compare it to like Lyric Kulik's deck, he has 18 instants, just as an example, and Search for Ascanta, which is kind of like an instant speed move later. Way fewer sorceries.
What do you think about the use of Crackling Drake or not as your only threat?
No
besides,
way.
Obviously, Teferian Expansion and Explosion.
I'm on Team Cassis. I think that the Azor's Gateway innovation is the way to go. The other thing about it is these decks have like 27 land. You cannot underrate. I'm never going to flip my Azor's Gateway, but I'm also not getting flooded. And my deck's 50% land. That's a big deal. Right, I'm just going to pitch all these extra land. Like, I'm just, I have my Seal Away on, the turn that you're attacking me with Arclight Phoenix. The thing that I was really impressed by this deck, by Cassis's deck, is how well it was interacting with the Phoenix deck. Like, Seal Away and Settle the Wreckage, just tons of ways to remove creatures from game. Ixalan's Binding, rather than just destroying them, like with a shock, for example. Really, really impressive. It's still you're behind, right? Like, the opponent's Arclight Phoenixes are hasty cantrips, but just the ability to deal with them, and the opponent has so much air, right? Like, they're concentrating tons and tons of effort into getting this 3/2 creature into play. And if you can handle it, then you just get to live. You just get to keep playing.
Sure. Dude, I just realized how much equity do you think there is in expansioning your divination? You get a little something going.
Yeah, a little something. Yeah, I saw Cassis do a lot of like relatively small explosions. Like 3 and 4x explosions. Just to
dude, you're not supposed to look at those, man. Explosions.
I'm not.
Yeah, because you're cool. All right, so Revitalize as an option for these decks is something that I've been really intrigued by. The whole pay 2 mana to gain 3 life and draw a card aspect seems great. The whole, like, for instance, Fernando Gonzalez playing 25 land, including just 11 white sources. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you get to see a lot of your deck with Opt, right? Sabotage that. These help you see your deck.
Yeah, you don't think you'd play the 12th red source or 12th white source?
Like I think that of the 3 Jeskai decks in the top 8, Gonzalez's is by far my least favorite. He's got like only 25 lands. The other 2 decks had more lands than this. And some of these individual cards, like I don't get 3 Teferi, 1 Raw, 2 Crack.
I can tell you about that one. I can speak to that. So I think the reason for 3 Teferi and 1 Raw, and full disclosure, I think they're wrong. I think you should just play Teferi. But the reasoning is if you suspect that enough people are going to play Ixalan's Binding and the Sorceress Spyglass, like if you're concerned about that, which I don't think is an unreasonable concern, then there's some value to getting Ral into the mix. And in particular, I think that once you're playing 4 Revitalize and 4 Opt, like I don't think Ral is nearly as good if you're not playing the cantrips. If you're just playing cards, like it's not like you can just play a deck full of Seal Away and Star of Extinction and Expansion Explosion and be like, yes, Ral. But I think that once you're playing the cantrips, it doesn't take much before Ral is like totally reasonable.
Yeah, I think Ral is a fine card. I just think that like this split of 3 Teferi, 1 Ral, 2 Crackling Drake is kind of a head scratcher for me.
I think that's just last week information that has proven to not hold up.
Talk to me about Nezahal the Primal.
On the Euro side. Oh, yeah. So Nezahal the Primal Tide is sort of, to begin with, like a Niv Mizzet in some ways that's like, a little easier to cast. The whole, no, they're very similar, right? I mean, Nezahal only draws the cards from your opponent's non-creature spells, and Niv Mizzet draws them the other way, so to speak, and then the whole they're both uncounterable. I mean, Nezahal just is another dimension that can take over a game, and I think that's its primary draw.
And it's big.
It's also more resilient. Like, I mean, Niv Mizzet does okay at the exchange when your opponent Vraska's contempts it. But Nezahal loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I get you.
I think it's just one of those threat diversity things, like 1 Siege King Commander, 1 Nezahal, 1 Niv Mizzet, 1 Lyra Dawnbringer, all in Florian Trout's Jeskai control deck. The thing I wonder about, though, is the Search for Azcanta. Is Search for Azcanta a relic of yesterday? Instead of Azur's Gateway, just given how much better Azur's Gateway is both coming and going with regards to Expansion Explosion?
Azur's Gateway is much better than Search for Azcanta when you're talking about playing decks with like Banefire and, like you said, Expansion Explosion. But Trot has 1 Expansion Explosion, right? So, I mean, one thing...
That's because there's all these Crackling Drakes.
Yeah, I mean, but you could just say, like, all right, Cassis did it right.
This week? I mean, he did do it mostly right.
Yeah, so, like, I mean, if people aren't just playing all these Expansion Explosions, he went to Banefire. He sideboard Banefire. The guy means it with his Azur's Gateway. Like,
yeah, he means it a little bit more than I would.
So the thing is, like, I think that Search for Azcanta, I think it's still got legs in Standard. Like, I can imagine playing Search for Azcanta in, like, Black Blue, for example, and then, if they're, like, maybe not in Jeskai.
Good point.
Like, but
no, I think you're right.
If it's doing stuff just like sending like a Narcomoeba or actually that's terrible. Just mill a Narcomoeba.
Dude, you're always
back on never forget about that, right? But I think it's got some legs in Black Blue. Maybe get a chill. How about a chill, Patrick? Search for Wisconsin, the chill. 3 gain 3 Lightning Helix.
So what's up with Javier Dominguez's mix of 1 Assassin's Trophy, 1 Cast Down, 2 Vraska's Contempt, 1 Vraska Golgari Queen, 1 Golgari Finebroker, 1 Elvish Rejuvenator.
Oh, well.
With a 2-2-2 split of Wild Growth Walker, Seeker, Squire, and Midnight Reaper.
I couldn't tell you. I think, like, in this deck, I'd be hard-pressed to want to have a single cast down before I had the second Assassin's Trophy to begin with. Just to start on that, it just that one doesn't make any sense to me. And, you know, a lot of the other stuff, not real sure about. Wild Growth Walker, Seeker, Squire it's an interesting split, right? He's got Wild Growth Walker in the sideboard. Obviously, Wild Growth Walker and Seeker Squire are good buddies. I don't know that I would go to war with Golgari and not have the 4th Ravenous Chupacabra. I think that's like one of the main things that this deck does. I do think that some of the advantages of this deck, and there's a huge asterisk on that, is that it has some play against the Arclight Phoenix deck. Like, he's got 3 Deathward Scavenger in the sideboard. Ability to go to 4 Wild Growth Walker does give him some good race capability, and Vraska's Contempt gives him removal cards with text in game 1. The only thing that's weird is he doesn't have the awesome removal card in his sideboard, the one that only costs 1 mana instead of 4 mana, and also removes Arclight Phoenix from game instead of just destroying it. Right? Like, isn't that a weird miss?
I mean, I don't know. Depends on how much Arclight Phoenix you're expecting.
Any amount more than 0? I don't know. Like, that card's just pretty good.
Yeah.
The Rejuvenator, I don't know. Like, this deck...
Dude, you seem like you'd be the king of rejuvenating.
Yeah, but he doesn't... I don't think he's not really the kind of deck that's doing it for the Rejuvenator. I guess he can go into Vivian Reed, but I don't know. He's got 3 Carnage Tyrants. I think it's hard to get this deck too far wrong when you've got 3 Carnage Tyrant. Although he only has 3 Find Finality. I think, like, Carnage Tyrant Find Finality is like that's the Splinter Twin combo of the standard Golgari deck. Like, here's like, I have a bunch of garbage in play. Same. All right. Find Finality. Put the counters on my Carnage Tyrant. Kill your team. Drat. Attack you with a huge hexproof.
I think Carnage Tyrant's going to be really important this week. You know, like, obviously I'm flying to the Pro Tour in a couple days, and one of the cards that really got circled for a make sure to not let it sneak up on is Carnage Tyrant.
He's the king of the Golgari stack.
Yeah. So, what would you play if you were me this weekend?
If I were you?
Yeah, at the Pro Tour.
Something like Cassis's Jeskai deck in all likelihood. I think, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of some of the individual decisions, but I think he got the shape of his deck really, really good.
Yeah. Dude, I really like Chemistry's Insight.
You can play one.
One? I want more than one. What about the Miser's Shock, man? Is that the best we got?
Well, how many ones are in this deck, right? There's Shock, Syncopate, and Banefire, right? I think he just wants to just mix up the casting costs.
Totally. Is the Disdainful Stroke doing enough compared to another Syncopate?
I think I would rather have an Ionize, personally. Yeah,
Ionize number 4 seems dope. What do you think about 3 Plains and 1 Niv Mizzet?
I hadn't thought about that combo. It seems like a powerful combo. Plains and Niv Mizzet.
You can, like, really be sure you've got extra white mana laying around
You've got enough mana to cast and continue to operate your Azor's Gateway, even on the turn that you cast Niv Mizzet with 3 Plains.
Dude, do you think is it completely just insane to play a Meandering River? Just a blue-white tap land that doesn't untap any of your other duels?
I think that's hard. That's real hard. I'm just
that's true.
Quick looking at how many. Well, all the lands can come into play untapped in this deck, right? So that's a huge advantage.
Usually, yeah, traditionally that's how they roll.
So I guess it's not much cost in a 27 land deck. I think so. Or I don't know, you could just make it into a guild gate if you really wanted to. Oh, actually,
same thing. That's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could. The cost is low enough.
Oh no, you don't have a blue-white guild gate though.
Oh, there's no Azorius guild.
But it doesn't matter. The guild gates would be the same anyway. It's just a tap land.
I think you could play one. I don't know how many you're going to play.
I was talking about one.
One.
And realistically, I'm talking about 0.45. I'm just curious how many. I'm curious if you think that's crazy. Also, I don't, dude. Like I know, but like I don't want to play 15 islands, man, or 15 blue. Like even if there's no double blue before, before you need a ton, I still just want to be able to cast my Syncopate on turn 2. Is that so wrong?
How many do you want?
At least 16. I mean, what I want is 17. No, what I want is 18 and just play Sinister Sabotage.
Sinister Sabotage is a good Magic the Gathering spell.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think this deck is sweet. What if I were you? What would I play this weekend if I were you? What are you playing this weekend?
Last weekend I played green-red. I thought my deck was great. I won a trial.
Congrats.
Yeah, and then, went 7-3 on day one, which is, or what did I 5-3, sorry, on day one, which is just 3-3 when you won a trial. Yeah, I could have obviously played better, but I was like an inch from making day two. And then I also did not win the PTQ, but I thought the deck was very, very good. It's just a green-red Experimental Frenzy deck with Sword Tooth, like we talked about a few weeks ago. But then the addition was also I had Ezra's Gateway with Banefire and Fight with Fire. Much more dedicated than some of the other. I didn't have 4 Ezra's Gateway like Cassis did, but I'm supplementing Treasure Map with this way, so it's good with. Experimental Frenzy in play, and I won a lot of games against Jeskai just flipping it and killing them with Banefire. So I thought that deck was outstanding. I thought that it has good matchups. It's very good against Jeskai. So if you think Jeskai's on the rise because of these performances,
I do.
But it would certainly fall in the category of decks that if you get the wrong draw, Brad's deck will murder you because I'm relying on Merfolk Branchwalker to hit land drops. And, if he's got a Tocatli Honor Guard and I don't have a removal card for it, and I don't have a lot, right? I have a couple of Fight with Fires and Banefires in my main deck. I'm just not going to draw land. So that I think is a distinct threat to the deck.
It still seems interesting.
It's good. I mean, it crushes Golgari, but I don't know if that means anything. Golgari was not even in the top 8 in New Jersey.
I mean, Golgari and Jeskai are the 2 best decks to beat, I think.
It is I went literally 50% against Izzet decks. Izzet Arclight Phoenix decks. I think that it's not favored against Izzet Arclight Phoenix. If they win the roll, they're probably going to win the match.
Sure.
That's
tough.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I won the matches that I won the roll, lost the matches that I didn't win the roll, and that's. I'd say it's a little frustrating, but they actually can hold their lead, right? Because they have better light counter spells or instant speed removal, interactive stuff. Versus, I'm so locked in on 4 lava coils out of my sideboard to interact with them at all. It's a really tough race. So I think if you think Izzet Arclight Phoenix is on the rise, then I don't think Green Red Dinosaurs Experimental Frenzy is necessarily the best choice. If you think it's Golgari and Golgari and Jeskai, it's great against both of those decks. Absolutely
interesting.
Great. It's great against Boros if they don't have Tocatli Honor Guard. But the problem is Tocatli Honor Guard's out of the bag now, right? So
yeah, that guy. I think that guy's going to be industry standard for at least this week.
Yeah, I was crushed everybody who all the Boros and Selesnya decks I played that didn't have main deck Tocatli Honor Guard or didn't have 4, all easy matchups. But if people are playing 4, much less easy. So, but none of the decks are perfect. I think that if I were you, I would get the most out of playing Izzet. Izzet is a powerful deck with a lot of options, a lot of high end, and it retains like 50% of what you would want to play green-red for. Like the whole Azor's Gateway X-Spell aspect of the deck, if you're going to...
So you're a Jeskai.
You just keep it, yeah. Did I not say Jeskai? I meant Jeskai if I didn't say Jeskai. I think you should play Jeskai. I think if I were to play, I would play Naya.
Dude, what about Grixis, man?
Yeah.
I got to go back to my roots.
But Teferi and Grixis.
Teferi, or alternatively, the Eldest Reborn as my 5. Yeah.
That's a good card. I do like Naya. I think Naya is pretty exciting. And I think like that is going to potentially be a breakout list soon. I was really impressed. I tested... I think Yellow had actually made the Naya deck that made top 32 of...
the ramp deck?
Yeah. I was really impressed
that's a cool deck.
by how much play that deck has. But I don't think that I would be like as all in on having like all Palaka worms and gigantic legendary dinosaurs as my like that seems like I mean, and also like Tristani Discordant just doesn't even seem that good to me. I'm not in for some of that. I would actually I think I would keep most of Nassif's shell, which is a ton of ramp cards, Immortal Sun, Azor's Gateway, Thematic Compass, Treasure Map, and then both Banefire and March of the Multitudes. And he's got Star of Extinction. And I think I would just play what's the Boros captain? What's his name? True Fire Captain? I think I just play True Fire Captain.
True Fire Captain?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's just a kill. And he's like... Are you honestly to tell me that you think that a 5-mana Tristani Discordant is so much better than a 4-mana True Fire Captain?
I just don't think that's the bar.
I mean, the card is in his deck. It's there. Like, I mean, or you just be like, all right, I'll play 4 March of the Multitudes. Like, this morning before work, I flipped Azor's Gateway and cast March of the Multitudes with it. I also had, first I cast the Immortal Sun, and then I cast March of the Multitudes. I had 24 2/2 March of the Multitudes tokens, thanks to my good friend Azor's Gateway. That is a powerful set of Magic the Gathering effects. Not gonna lie. Palaka Worm dug me out of being behind a bunch of times. I think this deck is actually pretty good.
All right. We might have a sleeper. We might have a dark horse, I should say.
Yeah, so... there's some small things that folks might not know. Grow from the Ashes. You kick Grow from the Ashes, the land's come into play untapped. That's pretty cool. So you can like grow and then cast one of your many 2 casting cost artifacts that turn. And then the other thing is like even if you've gotten all of your basic lands out of your deck with Thematic Compass or Grow from the Ashes, there are a couple of Guild Gates in this deck. So a late game Circuitous Route might still have some text. So those 2 things were things that I actually came up as I was practicing this deck, I think, which I think is pretty good.
All right, yeah. I mean, I do think that Circuitous into Palaka Worm is like kind of interesting.
It's powerful. Like even if they kill it,
that's an exciting sequence.
I mean, I literally pitched Zakama Primal Calamity to Azor's Gateway 100% of the times that I drew it. So I'm not, which is weird because I think that one of the incentives of this deck is to flip Azor's Gateway with Zakama and play, right? Like then you just get like all the cool abilities, but it's 100 mana. Like, I mean, you just got to stay alive.
Yeah, it might be a little greedy.
100% ambitious. Of the time, it was under my Gateway. I was actually shocked by how bad this is against Yellow Hat's other deck. Mono Blue deck houses this deck.
Yeah. I think that red aggro and control decks with a lot of red removal are going to be the best way to fight Hat's deck. I think that if your deck has basic forest in it, you're at a disadvantage.
But I did like it. So what do you think, Patrick? Is it going to be Jeskai for you, or are you going to play?
We'll see. We still got to talk next week. You got a week to talk me into it.
Okay. I'm telling you.
All right.
True Fire Captain.
Okay. We'll see. See you next week, man.
Bye-bye.
chicks for jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber